Greetings, class. I just wanted to reach out to you this week and share some additional information. I've had a few questions as the week has proceeded. I hope the first week of your class has gone pretty well. There's been a few communication errors with students not being able to contact me, I guess. So please make sure that you are using the information I provided in the syllabus. I've also provided it a couple times out in the announcements area. And then I have also provided my personal email as well in the announcement section for you to be able to access me. If at any time you don't get a response, please make sure to reach out and call me. For some reason, there was information going into spam and there was some other things that were not processing through the system. So please just make sure I'm always readily available to help you. So if you're not getting a quick response, something's not right. So please just reach out to me. So on the main screen here that you'll see, we're going to jump around. We're going to talk a little bit about the PowerPoints and where you can access those. I've had some students saying they were unable to get them to open. We're also going to talk about where to go in and submit your assignments. I've had some questions on that. I also want to go in and show you an example of what I'm expecting for the discussion forum posts. Most of you have jumped in there and gotten your posts in, but I really want to make sure students are hitting that deadline for their initial post on Wednesday night, so students have individuals to talk to the remainder of the week. We'll also go in and talk a little bit about an APA template that I'll be posting out for you as an additional resource to further understand how to use APA. Then we'll go into a citation machine generator, which allows you to create your citations for your references on articles you might use or books or whatever it might be. And then we'll cover some additional topics as well along the way. Right now I have the syllabus up in front of me and I just kind of want to walk through this. I know that I did on the first posting for the first week last week on Sunday. But again, like I had shared with you, my contact information is right here on the first main screen. I will again post out my personal email as well, so in case you need to get a hold of me, you'll be able to do so. Some of the links I'll be discussing today are going to be citationmachine.net. I'll talk a little bit about Al Purdue, and we may possibly get to lilly.org, which will be another resource for you to be able to utilize. The PowerPoints I was talking about for each week are available down here, and if you go into your Blackboard course under syllabus, you're going to find a hyperlink. You just need to click on that and it will open up in a Word document. If you scroll down to the section where it spells out the overview of the class semester and all the information that you would need to be successful in the class, it's going to be right here. So say, for example, you'll see that when I hover over the PowerPoint, it's not going to give you a hyperlink or anything, but if you go over here and you double click on it, it will open up the PowerPoints. You'll see them show up here in just a second. It'll take them a minute to load. So it'll automatically take you in and then you'll be able to go through them. They're pretty skeletal in terms of information, so I highly encourage you to get in there and do your reading in your textbook. If you don't have it yet, this might help guide you along the way to be able to get in and do some of your assignments or to engage in the discussion forum posts. I just want to make sure that everybody was aware of that because I know some people, they'd hover over it and they couldn't get it to open. So just make sure to double click once you've opened up the syllabus from in the Blackboard shell and you'll be able to access week 1, week 2, 3, 4, and so on. Some of them are a little bit longer than others, but they should open right up for you, give you an overview, you know, some of the important stuff that you need to take away from the chapter. So I just wanted to show that to you real quick. And again, like I shared earlier, I know I already passed by these links, but I want to make sure that you know where to find these additional links as well. So say if you hover on these hyperlinks, control click on your computer keyboard and it will take you directly to these generators and the other information as we get going. So I'm going to go ahead. That was the only thing I really needed to talk about in terms of PowerPoints and where to locate those. So I'm going to jump over to Blackboard now and show you where you need to submit assignments. I've had some students that have had questions about where they need to go to submit assignments. So if you go down for the first week, hopefully by now you've been able to find your announcements. The announcements will populate here on your home page. And I like to send out lots of announcements. Some may be repetitive, but the only reason I do that is to clarify emails as they start coming in from students. So If you have a question, please reach out to me and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. So if you go down here, we're going to go ahead and jump down to your assignments. We're going to go ahead and click on this. And you're going to see just the two. I have everything scheduled to open up Sunday at 12:30 a.m. for each week. So that's when you'll see the new week's information open for you to be able to engage in. I'm going to tell you right now, there was a little bit of mishap with the week 1 group work. So going forward, you're going to be optimizing your groups, which is down below here. You will be using the discussion thread to share your information after you take these little assessments that are embedded. So if you click on these here, it's going to open up. Most of you have gone through and started your homework. And then that way what you can do is once you've completed the steps here, you can share your information in a discussion thread with fellow students. Your groups will be composed of anywhere between 4 and 5 people. Those are the individuals that you will be actively working with throughout the group project that you have, and also this group work that's due each week. Sharing your information is critical, so making sure that you have that information in by Wednesday, 11:59 p.m. for the students. I kind of am a stickler about that just because I want to make sure that students have time to go in and review the information that you got from your results so they can compare their information within your group that you're working in. I can't click on the group from my end to show you, but Michelle has confirmed with me that another student in the class that she can see her group in the group link. So that is where you will have the capabilities to be able to go in and have access to get to the discussion thread where you will be posting that information. It won't be in our main discussion forum section where you go to post your weekly discussion posts. It'll be down here in your group. That way it won't give you overwhelming amounts of information to sift through to be able to do these weekly group assignments. Going back to assignments, as I was saying, I had some students with questions about where to submit assignments because obviously this is what you see. Let me get into student view real quick just so you know that you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing. So there we go. Now I'm into student preview. I was in faculty preview before. So as we get down here, let me get to assignments. Let me get back to that link I was just at. This is what you see from your side. But if you go ahead and click on this case study, for example, I'm just going to play around and submit something in there for fun to myself. So it's going to give you, the due date, when it's due, how many possible points are available, some different instructions about what I want you to do, and then what you will do. Everything needs to be in a Word document. I really highly do not want you to use the text submission. So go down here. I'm just going to click something that we're going to cover a little bit later. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm just going to grab the APA template that I have on here, and I'm going to go ahead and click open. You're going to see that it automatically pulls wherever I have my information saved. So if you utilize the cloud or your desktop or files or however you keep track of your work, go to that site, attach it, and then once you've done everything and got everything attached you need here, you'll go ahead, and I do have the plagiarism tool turned on to make sure that you're not submitting anyone else's work or you're not copying too much of someone else's sources. And go ahead and click on agree. This little box here, it won't allow you to submit until you agree to that. And then you can go ahead and just hit on the submit button. It'll take just a second for it to think. You'll see that it's spinning up here, and then over here it's going to show you the details for the assignment, last attempt. So at this point, you're going to see a little dash and /50, which is the total number of points. So this means I haven't gone in and graded it yet. In your submissions, I have opened up every single assignment to where you have 3 attempts at each one. So say, for example, you click on and you pick the wrong file and you submit it. You'll have 2 other opportunities after that to submit before you'll have to reach out to me for me to up the number of times that you can submit into the Dropbox. I'll talk more about this little template you see here in the background in a few minutes, but I just wanted to make sure that there was clarification on how to submit assignments. You'll have the 2 each week, so I just wanted to clarify that. We've talked a little bit now about the group assignments, so you might want to go in there and maybe just start a thread and say hi to each other and maybe exchange information if you need to, so you'll be able to communicate to be successful in your week 2. So from week 2 through the finish of the class, you will be actively working in your groups for your group assignment. It says group discussion and group work. That is where you guys will be working very closely with one another, whether you have 4 or 5 people in each group. Discussion forum post reminder. I'm going to go ahead and jump to that next. And so I'm going to go into the discussion post. You guys have done really well with getting your initial posts in, but really I just want to make sure that everybody gets in there and gets their initial post, which is your substantial, which requires 2 APA references and in-text citations, which means in the body of your post. And then your follow-up posts, they don't require an APA citation or reference, but I just want to make sure that it's not like, oh yeah, I agree, or great post. I want you to drive the conversation with fellow students. So please really pay attention to that. I'm going to go ahead and click on this little link here. Again, we're still in the student preview mode. So this is the same thing you're seeing on your side. I'm just going to scroll through here real quick. You know, these are great comments back and forth. You know, great post is fine, but just really make sure that you continue the conversation, because this is where a lot of learning goes on, and a lot of great things can be taken away from these discussion forum posts. So what I am looking for overall in regard to your substantial posts, let me get down further. I know there's some really good ones in here that will pop up. All right, so right here, for example, Kara's post, she's gone in and she's alphabetized her references. She's gone in, she has her in-text citation to back up her references down below here. You'll see that this matches up. So it's important to spell out where you've used the information from these articles to answer your post. So excellent job, Kara. So this is what I'm looking for you to do by Wednesday night at 11:59 p.m. There's no way for me to lock the Dropbox for the initial post, so I have everything set for Saturday. I do watch. It is critical to get full points for your first post that it come in Wednesday by 11:59. I can check that on the date calendar when I go in to do grading. This first post right here is the meatiest, and it's worth the most points. It's worth 30 points. Your additional follow-up posts are worth 10 points apiece. So just a little bit of an overview about what I'm looking for in regards to your post. Make sure that you are not going through and reviewing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what you need to do with APA here in a few minutes. So we'll talk about that, but it looks like we're off to a pretty good start with you being able to provide your resources and information to be able to link back. So I can see there's a lot of great substantial posts in here. The one thing that I'm going to ask is that you make sure that you have all the same font. It's okay to try to make things stand out, but if you use Times New Roman, that typically works the best with a 12-inch font. That is typically the best for these discussion forum posts. So great job so far on the discussion forums. Make sure you have your additional follow-up posts by Saturday of the week in which we're in. So I did go back in, as I had mentioned in the announcement section, and reopen the Introduce Yourself. We had a few additional students join in the class late, so I'd like to welcome those students as well to the class, and I hope that you're settling in well and you're able to get the resources okay. So from that, I think that's everything that I needed to answer in regard to questions that have come in throughout the week. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to some resources that I would like to share with you. You're not required to use them, but sometimes it makes it a little bit easier for students. You may have sources you like to use, which is fine as well. But I'm going to go ahead and jump over and talk a little bit about an APA template that I utilize. So let me get that up on the screen. Again, if you have additional questions about the Blackboard or how it's used, please reach out to me. There's also a little help button up here for more help if you have questions about it. It also gives you direct contact information to Blackboard help if you need it. So please utilize all your resources that are available to help you. The other thing I just wanted to refresh again, if you like to be someone who's a little proactive and kind of wants to see what's going on in the weeks ahead, I do have the objectives and summaries for the whole 12 chapters located right here. So when you click in there, it kind of gives you an overview of what will be discussed each week. So we've had these learning objectives during this week and then a chapter summary. By any means, this does not replace the actual reading, so I highly encourage you to do the reading, but this just kind of gives you a brief overview. So maybe the beginning of the week, go in and read it, so it kind of gets you thinking about some of the topics that will be discussed during the week. Is there anything else in here? I think that was everything. You will see that I have the reflective paper open. This is one of your final assignments in the class. Right now, you're not going to see anything in your group project. That launches, I think it's week 3 or 4. But again, that's something we'll talk about when we get to it, but there is information coming. If you've gone in and clicked on assessments, I know that you see that there's nothing there. There will be an assessment in week 4, week 8, and week 12. So that will cover the first 4 chapters, the next 4 chapters, and the final 4 chapters. So chapters 1 through 4 is your first assessment, which is in week 4. Your next assessment is in week 8, which is chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then your final assessment is in week 12, which is 9, 10, 11, and chapter 12. So we'll talk more about that when we get a little bit closer. So don't panic, but that is where you will find your assessments when they pop open for you to complete. Under My Tools and Grading, this was another thing I just wanted to make sure you knew where to find your grades. The announcements, just like the announcements here, you can access them either place. There's Blackboard help in here. There's some calendars, contact information. My grades, that's probably going to be pretty important to you because you'll want to see where you're at. I've went in and I've installed most of the grading for the weighted side of it, so you should be starting to see that populate when you have more than one grade in there. You'll start seeing, if you lose any points, the changes in where you stand in the course for your overall grade. And I believe that is all that I've received questions on so far. Again, it's nonstop questions, so that is fine. That's what I'm here for. So please make sure to reach out to me if you have any questions. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump over to the template that I was talking about. Let me close these out so things don't get too crazy. My computer likes to shut down sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over here. I'm going to go ahead and get screen sharing showing again. All right, now you should be able to see the APA template that I was talking about. Great resource to be able to use. I'm just going to kind of walk through this with you so you kind of get an idea of how to utilize it. There's a couple glitches in it along the way. Well, I guess they're not really glitches. You just have to know to watch for them. So right here is your running head, and this is typical on all APA papers. So I'm going to open this up. You'll see that this font is just a little bit lighter than the font down below here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my arrow right over the top. What you're going to do on your mouse is right click, and you're going to see something that says Edit Header. If you click on the Edit Header, it's going to turn this font dark. So I'm just going to use, for example, you were in your discussion post this week talking about perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wipe out this information right here. You'll see that the little one's going to move with me. And you'll notice that everything I'm deleting is all in bolds. So what you're going to do is you're going to type your header in all bolds. So I'm going to just name my paper Perspective. All right, and you'll see that the ones followed me over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that cursor right there, but I'm going to go ahead and just hit Tab. And you'll see that it carries it back over to the other side exactly where it needs to be. So what you'll do once you've modified this, you'll see that this close header footer is open. You're going to go over to this little red X and click on it and you're going to see where this goes light, but your information is saved here. The title page on your papers, you're going to be using this for your final reflection paper, and you're going to be using this for your group paper. I just want to make sure that if you want to be really fancy with some of your group work, that when you turn it in or your assignments, you're more than welcome to use this. Sometimes people like to be very professional when they do their work. There is something with this that I want to talk about. So on this first page, you're going to see running head. On your second page, as we scroll down, you're going to see that running head disappears, but the header didn't carry over. This template was specifically created for this purpose because sometimes if you use Word and try to set this up, the header will carry over page after page after page. If you're a guru at Word, be my guest at trying to create your own headers, but if you use a template, it's a lot easier. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I'm going to edit header again. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and back up this information. I want to get off the 2, though. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and go right here, and I'm going to back this information up. And you're going to see it start to carry back over. For some reason, it was carried down an extra line. So just want to make sure everything stays in place. And it's just a short article title. So earlier, up above by the running head, I used perspective. I'm going to use that same title here. Everything is in all caps. So what will happen is when you change this header on page 2, it will continue carrying over to page 3, to page 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, to 200, or whatever number page you have for your paper. You'll see that the one stayed in place. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and hit close header. And you're going to see it goes a little lighter. And as I just said, it's going to carry over from there on out with just the basic header that you need to have going forward. So for your papers and your group projects and your final projects, you don't need to have an abstract for this class. So I'm going to wipe that out. But in the future, in classes, this might serve you well to always keep a copy of this original one that I give to you, because it talks about the verbiage that you see down here under abstract. It talks about what an abstract is. It's a great resource, but what I'm going to do for this purpose, for this presentation, is I'm going to just highlight it. I'm going to get rid of it because, like I said, you're not going to need it. But your original APA template that I give you, you'll be able to italize that over and over and over again. So I'm just going to back this up and make this my page 2. You'll see I just messed up the header title, or the title of the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and move that back over where it belongs. I know sometimes this seems really repetitious, but I'm going to go over here. I always see papers come in without titles, so be really careful about that. It's not going to be all in caps, so it'll just be perspective. So that's what your title will look like. Sometimes your titles may be longer and they won't fit up above here. So just take out the keywords that you want to put up here, but you can make a longer title here. I always try to encourage students to make it no more than 1 line. It's okay to do 2, but try to just stay on 1 line when you title your paper. In here, it talks a little bit about, because right after your title is basically the introduction of your paper. So this talks about, you know, the length it should be, an introduction on average for a 3 to 5 page paper. Goes through and talks a little bit about what this is. I'm going to jump up to this other page here real quick, though, because I want to make sure that you know how to finish filling this in. In some of your classes in the past and other schools you may have attended, they may have required an author's note down here. We'll talk more about that when we get out to the alpurdue.com site, but I don't require it for this class, so I have just set the template up the way I would like to see the papers turn out. So what I'm going to do here, again, I know this sounds like a lot of repetitive work, but this will set your paper up correctly. So again, I've gone in and put the title into the paper. Here, I'm going to delete this, and this is where you're going to put your name. So I'll just put my name in here. Oops, I just messed up the format, so I'll fix that here in a minute. So what I need to do is just highlight this, and I'm going to move it back over and center it. Everything right here is centered. I've already put in University of Southern Maine, and so what you put in for your article completion date, I always tell students to do it the day in which the paper is due. So say, for example, if your assignment and you were formatting it in the APA template and it was due Saturday by 11:59, you're going to put tomorrow's date, which is January 27th, 2017 or 2018. Fix my squiggly spelling mistake. There we go. So that is what I expect your title pages to look like. If you want to view, I always try to get them centered so I can kind of guesstimate where that's at. But a way to view your paper and see how it's set up, just go up here to the top and hit view and multiple pages. And it's going to allow you to see where it's structured. So that looks pretty good. I mean, if you carry it down any further, it's going to look a little funny. About probably not even a halfway down the page is where you'll want to make sure that this is structured. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here. That's what your title page will look like. I'm going to go back to this, and if you want to get out of this multi-page view, you just go back to 100% on the page you want and click 100%, and it will open it back up. I talked about intro. So the body of your paper is where you get into the detail. You can structure it in any manner that you like. If you want to have level 1 headings or level 2 headings, we'll talk about that in Al Purdue. We'll jump over to that here in just a few minutes, but I want to make sure that you're comfortable with what I'm looking for. Sometimes in true APA, like I said, I'm not requiring an abstract, and I'm not requiring that you do a methods, results, and discussion area. I am just looking for the basic formatting of intro, body, and conclusion. That won't be typed. In fact, you won't type body of paper. I just want to make sure that there's a break here so you know what needs to happen in this area. You can always put your level 1 header here. So maybe you go in and put perspectives of students or perspectives of teachers, and then you might have some categories underneath it or whatever level that you need to talk to. And like I said, I'll show you how that's set up in alpurdue.com, the APA section. You won't have a results section. Again, this is going to just be more of the body, and then you'll go through, and then this part here, this is a true APA paper, so this section would actually be your conclusion. So there's your conclusion section. You'll see the numbers stay in place. We're going to scroll down just a little bit more. And then you're going to see your reference page. So this is how the references page is set up. You'll see that you don't have to do anything with your header here. Again, it continues on. Everything in your references page needs to be in alphabetical order. I intentionally moved this one right here just to make a point out of that. So you always want to make sure it's A through Z. So obviously O would go further down the list here. We'll go back and forth and reference this template a couple times as we start playing with the citationmachine.net, and we also will go over to the Al Purdue. So that is just kind of an overview of the template. It'll take you a little bit to get used to it, but I guarantee you will love it. You can go in and just delete all this information out of it when you're ready to type your information. This is just informational in here and talks about how to, do citations and whatnot, or what should be in these sections. So just use this as data information. Otherwise, you can just go in, highlight, and delete all this and just start writing your paper. So next we're going to go ahead and I'm going to jump over to Citation Machine, and this is a generator for references. Citationmachine.net, this is my favorite site. I use it a lot. There's a few glitches with it as well, but it's a great resource. I enjoy using it. It hasn't led me astray or wrong yet. So we'll open this up and get in there, and I'll do some examples. So if you're not comfortable creating references from scratch using manuals, I know that in other classes for the 301, they're requiring that you buy a booklet that has APA information in it, but I think I can get you enough resources where you don't need to buy another book. This source is really good because it allows you to pick different ways of citing. Obviously, we're using APA. That's the primary reference that I want. I want to stay on this page. So it gives you different options. So say, for example, if you wanted to create an APA reference for your book, your textbook that you're using, you could do that. Or if you found a magazine article, or you're reading the newspaper and find something. What's really great about this is I always use the manual entry mode. I never try to use the autofill. I don't have much luck with this section of it. But what I want to show you, you know, if you're doing journal, a lot of times you'll be using websites from the internet as you find information. But if you click on this other button, it's my favorite place to go. So it gives you all kinds of different things that you can cite. So say, for example, if you find a brochure that you want to cite, it will open up the correct boxes of information that you need to fill in. You find a blog or a letter, or you'll see that there's so many different options, and they update this site quite frequently. They've added quite a few new things to this, so it's a really great source to go to. So what I'm going to do, just to provide you an example, is I'm going to just say that you want to cite this presentation. So what I'm going to do is come over here and I'm going to go, oh, look, I want to cite Stephanie's lecture. So I'm going to go ahead and click on lecture and speech just to give you an example of how this template works. So what you're going to go in and do is, so say, for example, what I'm talking about in the APA template, maybe we're just going to call it perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and type in perspective. Maybe that's the title of my lecture. If it's a lecture, maybe you go to a speech, or you go and someone reads something and you listen to it. That's where you'll choose what it is. But in this case, we're going to use lecture. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And the contributor is going to be me, your instructor, whoever the presenter was. All right, so there's that. And then I'm going to enter in the event. And basically what I'm covering in this presentation today, this isn't going to be your lecture for week 2. This is just an overview of resources. I'm going to go in and I'm going to entitle this event resources, and I am currently in Nampa, Idaho. And then the date viewed would be the day that you actually listen to the presentation. So I'm just going to put today's date to make it easy. So the day is 26. Then when you drop on this little calendar here, it's going to open up a bunch of months. And then the year, which is 2018. And then you're going to scroll down. I never really add any annotation. The most important thing is just click citation, and it's going to go ahead and think for a minute. And then you're going to see that it has created a proper APA reference for the presentation from the lecture that you've listened to. So the biggest thing I want to tell you if you use this is do not just highlight like this and copy it. What will happen is this peach color will carry over to your resource page. What you need to do is use the copy and paste button, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this right now, and I'm going to let it think for a minute. Sometimes it's a little catchy and slow. So I'm going to hit Control C, which is Control Copy on your computer keyboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the template we were playing with just to show you. This is the APA template we were playing with just a few minutes ago. And so I'm going to go ahead and let's see, if we were to alphabetize A, B, C, D, E, F, so we're just going to act like O doesn't exist. So what I do is I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to hit Control V, which will paste that little reference, and you'll see that there is no yellow or peachy color behind it. But the problem is you'll notice that the font looks a little bit off from the Times New Roman 12 that I require for APA. Excuse me. What you'll do is go ahead and highlight this. And you will go ahead and change this to, when it opens up, Times New Roman, and then you will go to 12-inch. And the other thing that typically happens with the generator is that the font will be a little bit lighter or come out across as a lighter black. Go ahead and make sure that it is converted over, and you'll see that now everything matches and everything's in order. So I'm going to jump back over to this again. there are some glitches. I'm going to try to do another one here real quick just to show you how to take information from a website. So I'm going to say we're using a website. We're going to go back over here. We're going to create a new one. And so occasionally, it didn't do it this time, but after you do a certain number of citations and references in this for APA, what will happen is there's going to be an advertisement that pops up that says you need to pay $9.99 to buy a version of it. Don't ever pay for it. Watch just a little short video. There's another prompt up above. You just click on that and let 30 seconds worth of an advertisement run, and then it will take you right back over to the generator. It's free that way, so please don't pay for it, but just utilize it in that manner. So I'm going to go ahead and, it's tax season. So what we're going to do is we're going to go irs.gov. So I'm going to go ahead and get that opened up, and we're going to go back and forth. So this is considered a website. So what I want to do, I think I'm just going to go and click on, what do I want to look at? Oh, what looks exciting on the IRS website? Let's try get answers to tax questions. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to copy, in just a second, this title. This is the title of this part of the website we're using. I'm going to copy it. So then I'm going to jump back over here. Sorry, I can't do a split screen on this when I use the Zoom. So I'm going to click on manual entry under website, and it's going to think for a minute. And what's great is it opens up absolutely everything I'm going to need to fill in. Sometimes you will not have all of that information. So I'm going to go ahead and click in this box, and you saw where I copied the title. Control V, and that comes across right there. Then, of course, on this website, there's really no author truly. There's probably multiple people that contribute to this. So you're not going to have anything to fill in for that. So leave it blank. Don't do anything with this section. Then you're going to want the URL, and the URL can be located up above here. So I'm going to go back to this site, and I'm going to highlight and copy, go back over here, and I'm going to go Control V, and there is that information, and the electronically published date. So I'm going to go back to this site over here, and usually, sometimes on websites or an article, you're going to find a date and an author up above. But like I said, there's no true author for this, but I always scroll to the very bottom. Sometimes it's not down around here, but if you go up here, this is good because sometimes websites don't have a month, a date, and a year. Sometimes they'll just have a year. So if that's all you've got, that's all you can put in. But in this particular case, January 3rd of 2018 was the last time this was updated. So I'm going to go back to my generator. I'm going to go, the day was 3 when it was electronically updated. It was in January, and it was 2018, the last time any modifications were made to that page. I don't ever put date access. This is something that used to be part of the 5th edition of APA. It is not required, so please don't fill that in. It is not part of the 6th edition APA that you are needing to use for this class. So there's no add annotations like the first one I did, and then you're going to just hit on Create Citation. And this is perfect because this is what I wanted you to see it do. So here's the $9.99. Don't subscribe. Go up here. You're going to watch the sponsored message. Then you are going to go over here and you are going to click on a general sponsored message. That's usually the faster one. It's like 30 seconds. So it'll go through and you'll see Pop-Tarts, basic presentation. And perfect, it pops right back over. It gives us a little thank you. And here is our reference that we need. We're going to hit copy again. And we're going to wait for that little prompt that says it's been copied to our clipboard. You'll see it's been sent to clipboard. And then we're going to go over here again to that same template we were using. And I'm going to FGH I can't remember what the title was. So I'm just going to pick a section, Control V, and there it is. So interactive. And again, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to fix the font. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go Times New Roman. I'm going to go and I'm going to select 12 on here. And then I'm also going to go over here because I like blue hyperlinks. So I'll kind of touch on that real quickly. If you're doing an online paper, there's no written rule at APA that says it needs to be in black font. So in an electronic version of your paper, I like to have blue hyperlinks. However, if you are required by an instructor to print out or turn in a paper, that can be very distractive in a printed version. So always make sure that if you are printing and submitting a paper, that you take out the blue hyperlinks, which means all you have to do, I wouldn't take out the hyperlink, don't worry about that so much, but just highlight it and turn everything black. So that's just kind of an overview of how to use the citationmachine.net. Next, we're going to go ahead and go on. We've covered the APA template. We've covered what references look like. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to alpurdue.com real quick because I want to allow you to see yet another source that's out there. This is great. This is actually not a generator. I have the proper link for you, but you want this one here, I believe is the correct one. Let me get it open. So this is the correct one that I want you to be able to go to. This is the sample paper. However, there's some other great references in here as well. You'll see that the template that I provided for you, I'm going to post that out. It is not in your syllabus. I will put it in the announcements section. I really encourage you to use it. So in here, you're going to see the running head. It's going to look very similar. The author note, this is a true APA paper, but I don't require this. I went ahead and removed it from the template that I provided for you. All of this information is really good. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this a little bit so it's easier to see as we go through. So you'll see that this talks a little bit about, you know, what goes where and all the information. That's what all these little detail boxes are. Don't let it be distracting. Again, it's just kind of an overview, like what is in the template now that I'm providing for you. So as you scroll through here, you're going to see there's the abstract, and it talks a little bit about what an abstract is. If you need to put keywords, I usually recommend anywhere between 3 and 5 keywords. So these are search criteria that people can use in scholarly databases to be able to get information. So places like EBSCOhost and ProQuest, which are probably available through your library at University of Southern Maine, you can access those. If you need help, please make sure to reach out to your librarian. I'm pretty sure I incorporated that into your syllabus as well. In here, you're going to see the same headers that I had you change, same page numbers, the title of your paper as we went in and put perspectives in the last one. These are your different level headings. So this is considered a level 1 heading. So if there's certain areas that you want to break up and break into sections, you're more than welcome to do that in the body of your paper. That's kind of what I had written in the one that we were going through as an example that I'm going to provide for you, but you can put whatever you like to in this section depending on what you're talking about. Then we're going to scroll down a little bit and we're going to look at another subsection. So here's discussion. I really don't require a discussion section in here. This could be another level 1 heading with subcategories underneath in a level 2 heading, as it talks about here, which breaks it down into categories. So say, for example, you could put perspective here, and you could put teacher perspective, student perspective, and so on. And you can break it down even further into a 3rd level heading if you needed to talk about additional information underneath each one of those. So this is an excellent source to go to see a very good and very well-developed APA sample paper. I'll continue scrolling here. Like I said, everything will carry over. On the template that I am going to put in your announcement section, I just put conclusion instead of conclusion and future study. Don't worry too much about that. It's however you'd like to title it. And again, remember that when you are doing your conclusion, that you really kind of wrap the whole paper up with a pretty bow. That's really important. You know, if you only write a 2-sentence conclusion, that kind of leaves the reader a little disappointed. So really make sure that you develop a really strong intro to pull me into wanting to read your paper, and then really tie everything together and restate the strong parts that you're really trying to enforce in your paper. Make strong statements. Don't make, well, maybe, or if, or wishy-washy analogies in your papers. Take a point and back it up. Again, here's your references. You'll see that everything is alphabetized very nicely in here. The one thing that I didn't embed into your APA template that I'm providing you that you may want to use, maybe in this class for your group and final presentations or reflective paper, but is the ability to embed an appendix. In an APA paper, you never slap charts or graphs or questions or anything into the body of the paper. You can reference them in your paper by properly titling them in the back section. So in your paper, you may go, please see Appendix A, the HomeNet project, or you could go down here and reference in Table 1A in the appendix, you will find and explain what is found or explain what the information is that they'll find once they go to the back. They can go back and forth between the two to see what's in the appendix. Like I said, there's no one best way to do this, but you always want to make sure that you reference this particular information when you are discussing it. So it's similar with doing your in-text citations, no different, but you're going to have to go out and look at some examples to make sure that you get them incorporated correctly. So if we go back up above in the paper, I'm sure somewhere in here they have these tables cited. Let me see if I can find one for you quickly. Commons. So right here shows you how to talk about the different appendixes if you want to include it at the end, kind of like you would do a in-text citation at the end of a sentence. There's going to be other examples as well as you go through this paper about how to incorporate those. So this is a great place for you to be able to utilize that information. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back over here again to the Al-Purdue site. There's some other really great stuff as well if you struggle with in-text citations or knowing how to do your references in the body of a paper. I always like to focus more on authors. So if you click on this section right here, it's going to take you in and show you what a single author citation or reference, not a citation, should look like at the end of your paper. If you use two authors, it shows you how the reference should look for this, three authors up to 7, et cetera, and so on. What else is in here? There's a ton of information. Don't let this overwhelm you when you start going through it. I usually don't use much in this area, but if you want to look through this information, that's great. There's different types of APA papers, but I always just go directly to the sample paper. But if you want to look at how to set up tables and figures for an appendix, or how to use statistics in APA, or any changes in the 6th edition, this is where you're going to reference that information if you want to go deeper into it. But this is not, like I said, a place that will generate the references or in-text citation for you, but it shows some really great examples. So don't be scared to get in here and push some buttons and look around if you want to learn some different ways to do citations and references and other ways of doing appendixes and whatnot. So just some additional information for you to be able to use. It's not mandatory, but it works really well. It's a great source for students to use to be successful. And then the next area that I wanted to go into is a website that is only usually available to Idaho residents, but I'd like to share it with you. I know that your library is readily available for you to use, but if you want one more database, I'm going to just take you in quickly to lily.org. The link is also there in your syllabus if you forget as we go through this. And so this is a really great website, and you'll see down here there's some different things. So as a student, it's great for people that have kids as well. So if you've got kids at home and want kid-appropriate information, this is where you're going to go. But for college students, you're going to want to go over here to colleges and universities. You'll click on this. And then in just a few minutes, it's going to ask me, oh, it recognized from earlier. I was in here earlier today, so I'm already logged in. So it's going to ask you to sign in. And when it asks you to sign in, it's going to ask you for a zip code. I don't know why it won't take me there now, but the zip code you'll want to use is my zip code, which is 83687. And then the other thing you will want to put is going to ask you city. And what I want you to put in there is Nampa, N-A-M-P-A. What you will do from that point is go ahead and it will allow you to click on log in and it will take you in. If you try to put your Maine or wherever else you are in the country into that, it will not allow you to access it. There's some great different sources for you to get into in here. You know, each of you have different fields, you know, when you went in and did your introduce yourself. So if you're in the medical industry, you may want to use Medline. There's different ones for psychology and behavioral science, and this refines the search just a little bit if you're a political science student, etc. The one that I typically teach students to use the most if they like to use these scholarly sources is Academic Search Premier. And go ahead, we'll click on that. Okay, so it is going to ask me to do that. So this is where you're going to put in my zip code, 83687. And then it's going to ask for a city, and I'm going to go ahead and put Nampa, N-A-M-P-A, and just hit login. You'll see it says Idaho residents only. Sorry, I went a little fast there. And it's going to take us into EBSCOhost. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and maybe pick a topic. So I'm going to show you how this works. We're going to put perspective in. And this is going to give us a lot of information. Up here earlier, before I hit go, it says choose databases. So at the very, just a few minutes ago, you saw all those different databases you could go into. You can go back and click on this, and it's going to give you an itemized list of what's available under EBSCOhost, which is just a site for you to be able to access information. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave the perspective there, and I'm going to go ahead and hit search. You'll see that some other prompts pop up here as well, but I'm just going to leave it really generic. So I'm going to hit search, and what's going to happen is it's going to think, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it gives me 180,000 potential documents to weed through. Well, obviously, I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and this allows me to refine my search. I always like to use scholarly journals, and you'll see that it knocked it down by about 30,000. Then I also like to go down here, and you're going to see there's articles dating clear back to 1897. Unless you are doing a historical timeline on perspective, you're probably not going to want to go that far back. I always tell students to use resources that are about 3 to 5 years old maximum. 3 will keep you current in field, 5 is a bit of a stretch. So what I'm going to do is you'll see my little finger, I'm going to left click, and I'm going to drag this little sliding bar, and you're going to see the date starting to change. And I'm going to take it so far, I'm going to go clear to 2018. You'll see both boxes match. And I'm going to lift my finger, and it's going to update. And you're going to see that what happened is it dropped me even further. It took me down to 198 articles. Well, that's great. Well, sometimes you'll get searches that the information doesn't really match. So what I'm going to do is it says right here, there's 196 out of 198 that are academic journals. Maybe I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go, oh, I don't want full text. So I'm going to take that away. Let's see what happens there. Oh, it jumps it clear up. So maybe I do want full text. So I'm going to go back over here. I click on that box again, it will update. And maybe I want to add some additional information. So earlier you saw all the perspective stuff that popped up. And I'm going to do an advanced search. So I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to put perspective. And you'll see these little drop down arrows. And this is, or arrows, this is where you can select perspective and or perspective or not, or whatever area it is. I always use the and most of the time, and teacher. Maybe I'm just going to use perspective and teachers. Let's see what that does for our search. Oh, it jumped us clear back up again. So we may want to go back through. We're going to change this. It's going to give us more specific information. And then again, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go to this and I'm going to drag it from 1937 to 2018. And hopefully it will refine my results down. So it's still got me around 94. So I can do a quick view. I can kind of skim through and see if anything meets what it is that I'm looking for. You know, maybe this is the one that I like here, mindful learning to teacher education, a sociocultural perspective. And, you know, perspective is really important when you start thinking about how we deal with different types of students and how we engage better or how we can do better on meeting the needs of our students. So maybe this is the article I like. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this hyperlink and it's going to take me in. It's going to open up and it's going to give me some information here. And so maybe this is what I'm interested in. It's going to tell me what the product is. And maybe I want to cite this source. There's all these awesome buttons over here. So if you want to export it, you can do that. If you want to email it to yourself, you can email it to yourself for later use. So what we're going to do, just so you can kind of see, you know, I've been talking a lot about references. So if you want to cite this particular article and use it for your information, all I do is click on that little cite button and it does it for me in many different formats. You'll see. So we've got MLA, we've got Chicago, we've got Harvard, but the one we're interested in is this one right here. So say, for example, we'll take this information right here. It already provides the DOI, it has the journal, the page numbers, the whole 9 yards that you'll be utilizing. So all you'll need to do is copy that over. You'll have to adjust the font and the size again, just like what we had to do with the citationmachine.net. But this is a great source for you to be able to use. You know, I'm going to tell you, Google Scholar has some great information out there if you like to search it. It's not nearly as extensive as EBSCOhost or ProQuest, but you can use it. However, I'm going to warn you, don't ever pay for an article. Your library subscribes to many of these at University of Maine. So please make sure to reach out to your librarian if you have any questions. You have access to so much stuff. The library in the school spends a lot of money on making sure you have access to all of these databases. So this is not the one for yours at your library at University of Maine. This is just an additional resource you can use. So if you have questions, let me know. I want to make sure that you know it's okay to use Google to do your research. I'd like you to stay away from wikipedia.com. Not that it's not getting better, but it's not one of my favorite sources for you to use as a reference for your research. So please try to stay away from that if you can. I think that I have pretty much touched on everything. I do want to go back just one more time to Blackboard to finalize here and touch base with you about the group project. So going forward, I know there was some mishaps with the group assignment or the group work that you needed to do to be able to compare notes with fellow students. Just proceed the best you can for week 1, and in week 2, we'll pick up with you working in your groups. You'll be utilizing discussions in your groups. You'll be able to create a discussion forum link to be able to share your information and data so students can compile information. If you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. If I don't respond, there's something wrong, try another one of my emails or try my phone number. Whatever it takes. I will be really proactive in monitoring everything. I will also post out my personal office number, which you will get an extension for in the forum. So I just want to make sure that everybody's doing great. I want to welcome you one more time to week 1 of the LOS 301 Group Dynamics course. And again, I look forward to working with all of you. I hope some of these resources come in handy for you in the coming weeks. So again, if there's any questions about anything, please touch base with me. I hope you all have a great weekend. I'll be in talking to more of you tomorrow as well in the discussion forum area. I've been in there the last few days as well, talking to students or responding back. You're always welcome to respond to a response I've given to another student. So never hesitate about that. It's not meant specifically just for one student. So hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you again next week sometime. Thank you.